Tim McGraw, one of the most beloved country music stars, has gone through things no one could ever imagine. At 58, his life story filled with triumphs and unimaginable pain continues to capture the hearts of millions. But behind the legendary hits and prestigious awards, Tim's personal life is riddled with loss, tragedy, and unimaginable challenges. From family tragedies to battles with addiction, Tim's strength has been tested at every stage. Yet through it all, he remains a symbol of hope and resilience for his fans. If you're a fan of him or country music, comment 1 below. And if you're just a music lover, comment 0. Enjoy the video, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Now let's dive into Tim's amazing story. The story of one of America's greatest voices did not begin in dazzling lights or roaring applause, but in a strange and profound silence. A deep silence, as if it seeped into every breath, every gentle breeze, and every thick shadow of the South. Everything began on May 1st, 1967, in Delhi, Louisiana, under the heavy heat of summer where endless cotton fields stretched out in the absolute stillness of this land. Tim's mother, Betty D'Agostino, was a young woman who worked tirelessly at a small diner, keeping a faint light alive just to keep a roof from collapsing over their heads. She was exhausted after long hours of hard labor, and her eyes carried an endless weight of worry. Tim's father, Tug McGraw, was a rising baseball star, but he left before Tim was born. The boy grew up without a father and with unspoken whispers surrounding him, carrying within himself a foggy sense of identity. Tim's childhood passed in poverty and hardship. His mother left home early every morning exhausted, leaving behind only a cold biscuit and a note that read, "I love you, Timmy." They weren't homeless, but life was filled with difficulties where school felt like a battlefield. The boy sought refuge there, but also faced the haunting feeling of inadequacy. Those years were some of the greatest challenges in Tim's life. Even so, baseball and music were always Tim's greatest sources of encouragement. Every time he picked up a baseball, a fierce passion awoke inside him. It was a passion that seemed to come from somewhere he couldn't explain, like an echo from the father he had never met. Music, especially the songs of George Strait and Merle Haggard, became his only companion during long, quiet nights, a place where he found comfort amid his feelings of loneliness. One day, while Tim was searching through his mother's dresser, he accidentally found an old birth certificate with the name Frank Edwin McGraw, Jr., instead of Smith, the name he had been called all his life. The truth left him stunned and confused. When he asked his mother about his father, she simply replied, "The man you love," and softly spoke of someone who never had the courage to love her back. Tim never imagined that one day after so many years of absence, his father would reappear. When Tim turned 18, while the memory of the little boy sitting on the porch was still vivid in Tug's mind, the father finally came back. Together, they began rebuilding what had been lost, slowly mending the emptiness in Tim's heart and in their lives. Quiet conversations and small steps gradually paved the way toward a bond that should have been formed the day he was born. "He became my hero," Tim shared. However, their reunion came too late for him. Even so, their reconciliation helped Tim reclaim a part of his lost identity, though the scars still remained. He carried within himself his mother's gentleness, his father's fierce fire, and a resilience forged long before life ever offered him anything in return. Perhaps that's why when Tim McGraw sings, you can still feel the echo of the little boy sitting on a Louisiana porch calling out to the father he finally found. Baseball for Tim McGraw was more than just a childhood game. It was the beat of his heart. On afternoons at the high school field in Start, Louisiana, he wore a worn-out glove chasing balls until the sun sank behind the bleachers. It was his own language, the only way he knew to heal the invisible wounds between him and his father, the man whose absence haunted his childhood. Every swing of the bat was a silent conversation, every victory a plea for recognition. And when he graduated, those strong and precise swings brought him closer to his dream. Baseball became the bridge through which he could prove himself worthy of the bloodline he had always longed for. But life was far from easy. At Northeast Louisiana University, 18-year-old Tim threw himself into the game with all the longing of a boy searching for the father he had always lacked. A scholarship that seemed like his chance to prove his worth suddenly collapsed in an instant. A severe knee injury caused pain that tore not only through his body, but also erased the path to a professional baseball career. Every heartbeat in the cramped dorm room with his knee wrapped and the air heavy with the smell of antiseptic reminded Tim that the future he had trusted in had shattered. Yet in that silence, music began to rise. The country songs that his stepfather Horace Smith often played in their Louisiana home began to echo in Tim's mind. His trembling hands touched the old guitar, producing rough notes that carried a hidden power of survival. Music became his lifeline, lifting him from the wreckage of failure toward hope. In 1989, at 22, Tim left Louisiana carrying his guitar and a dream to Nashville, the city of strangers shouting to be heard. Every room reminded him of poverty, nights sleeping on car seats, constant rejections, and an overwhelming sense of despair. Yet none of this could defeat him. In 1990, at a Philadelphia Phillies team party, Tim McGraw played his son's demo tape for a music executive. And then a turning point came from the very father who had been absent when he needed him most. The tape made its way to Curb Records, and on October 22, 1990, Tim McGraw signed his first recording contract. However, his career was far from smooth. His debut album, released in 1993, failed to make an impact. Singles didn't chart, radio stations rejected him, and critics claimed his voice was nothing special. At times, he feared his career would end before it even began. But the boy who had grown up in cramped rooms and watched his mother struggle through life refused to give up. Every rejection Tim faced, he didn't see as failure, but as a challenge to overcome. He had confronted hardships and witnessed dreams crumble, but this time, he refused to let it happen again. If the world wouldn't listen, he would sing louder, deeper, and more authentically until pain transformed into strength. He wouldn't stop until his voice was strong enough to break through the silence, strong enough to be heard. The young man who had once faced rejection, who had huddled in an old car at a Tennessee rest stop, battling hunger, cold, and doubt, was now ready for a breakthrough. In 1994, fate finally stopped turning its back on him. After countless long nights playing music in empty bars and living in shabby motel rooms, Tim McGraw released the album Not a Moment Too Soon. And this time, destiny smiled on him. The single Indian Outlaw, though controversial and censored, brought his name into the spotlight. Next came Don't Take the Girl, a ballad about love and loss, which climbed to #1 on the Billboard country charts, transforming Tim from a boy who once felt invisible into a rising star in Nashville. Within a few months, Tim McGraw became a symbol for those who felt forgotten. His voice, once echoing through empty bars, now resonated across America. The guitar strings rang with pride, the drums beat into the hearts of thousands, and the stage lights blazed like a new sun, illuminating a man who had finally received the recognition life had once denied him. Not a Moment Too Soon not only captured attention but also won the hearts of listeners. By the end of 1994, the album had sold over 6 million copies, becoming the best-selling country album of the year, earning the Album of the Year award at the ACM Awards and topping the Billboard charts. But this was just the beginning of his journey to glory. Over the next decade, Tim McGraw not only released albums and singles, but also dominated the charts, earning multiple Grammy, ACM, and CMT awards. His career became a symbol of talent, perseverance, and resilience. His tours, especially the Soul to Soul 2 tour, grossed nearly $90 million in a single year and over $140 million across 2 summers, elevating Tim from a poor boy sleeping in a car to one of the highest-earning country artists. These numbers reflected not just financial success, but also the power of a voice capable of touching the hearts of an entire nation. Baseball may no longer have been the path he chose, but country music gave Tim a new road, a life full of freedom and youth. Songs like Please Remember Me became anthems of farewell, and throughout his 30-year career, he sang not only for himself, but for those navigating life's highs and lows. His performances, with 50,000 fans rising to greet his voice, transformed Tim McGraw from a lonely boy into an icon of resilience. From long nights in empty bars to standing on the biggest stages, Tim became an icon not only of music but also of resilience and hope. He built a legacy worth over $200 million, an astonishing achievement for someone who once slept hungry in a parking lot. However, as the world lifted him higher, a quiet shadow began to follow, serving as a reminder of the cost of success. With a packed schedule spending 250 days a year on the road, Tim became a different person. The tours, sleepless nights, and loneliness in the crowd began to wear him down. In a 1995 interview, he shared, "The lights go out, the crowd disappears, and you're left alone. A man and the silence." Despite thousands of fans applauding, he still felt emptiness inside. Alcohol sometimes became a companion on quiet nights, helping him momentarily forget the loneliness, but it could never fill the deep void in his soul. The stage lights illuminated his face, but they could not brighten the darkness in his eyes. Lonely nights, the sound of piano echoing in the silence, bore witness to the pain that fame had brought. Yet in that silence, a legacy began to take shape, intangible but unstoppable. Live Like You Were Dying was more than a song. It was a philosophy, a guiding principle that helped him overcome life's challenges. Tim McGraw, the boy who once longed for recognition on the baseball field, had now become an icon of resilience. And it was that very song, as he shared in an interview, that saved him. It reminded me to live, not just perform. Born from the deepest wounds, the song became a major turning point in Tim McGraw's career, propelling him to the pinnacle of fame and earning him the CMA Song of the Year award. With trembling hands, he accepted the award, remembering the boy who once sang in the dark, and from that moment became not only a country music star, but also a symbol of hope. Tim proved that even in the face of loss, one can rise and inspire others. When Faith Hill entered his life, bringing the peace and love he had long denied himself, his journey seemed complete. From personal struggles, Tim had built a legacy measured not only by chart rankings, but by the hearts he had touched. He sang of love, faith, and loss, and now life challenged him to see if he truly believed in those things. The boy who once trembled in a worn-out car now stood before a sea of people, each cheer the price paid for long, lonely nights and fears no one had ever witnessed. In 2011, at age 44, after 2 decades of dominating the charts, Tim felt trapped in a contract with Curb Records. To him, the contract felt more like a prison than a partnership. Songs he believed in were sidelined, release dates delayed, and compilations he never approved appeared under his name, making him feel like a traveler on a career path he had painstakingly built. After a grueling 250-day tour, he was left alone in a hotel room feeling trapped. "I just want to sing sincerely again," he whispered, his voice carrying the pain of an 18-year-old boy who once wondered if he belonged anywhere. Then in 2011, a shock nearly broke him when Curb sued him for releasing an album too early, accusing him of breaching a contract he believed had long ended. Holding the legal papers in his hands, Tim felt smaller than ever. "I've performed for millions of people," he said, and yet at that moment, I felt smaller than ever. For nearly 2 years, his life wasn't filled with concerts, but with courtrooms and depositions instead of shows. Yet hardships had been shaping him since childhood. When the court ruled in his favor in May 2012, it felt like a door had finally opened after years of being closed. Stepping out of the Nashville courthouse at the end of 2012, Tim didn't feel like a superstar, but like a man who had fought for his voice and won. For the first time in many years, he felt true freedom. At 45, Tim entered 2013 as a reborn man, carrying not just victories, but a newfound freedom as intense as the hope he once nurtured as a boy in Louisiana, clutching his old guitar. Signing with Big Machine Records wasn't just a career move, it was liberation from the cage he had lived in for so many years. His first album with Big Machine Records' 2 Lanes of Freedom felt like a breath of fresh air. "I get to be myself again," he whispered, and the whole world heard it. His creativity flowed freely, and in the studio he paused only to savor the silence between takes. The silence now carried possibility, not fear. The burdens of contracts and courtrooms had lifted. He chose his own songs, shaped his own sound, and wrote stories drawn from his own life. With the song "The Road Don't Care," Taylor Swift's delicate vocals and Keith Urban's guitar created a track that didn't just mark Tim's return, it lifted him higher than ever. The song wasn't merely a comeback, it was a declaration. He was free, and his artistry had come alive again. On tour, the change was evident. Copper-haired couples held hands tightly, veterans stood with trembling pride, and mothers hoisted their children so they could see the man who had fought and won for his own voice. The stadium erupted not just for the music, but for the resurrection of the man who had raised his voice. And as Tim stood under the lights, 45 years of pain lessons and fiery determination behind every note, he finally understood what had been hidden from him despite all the fame and battles. Freedom was not the absence of struggle, it was the reward for those who survived and overcame adversity. Tim McGraw was no longer merely a country music star. He was living proof that even the most shattered dreams can rise again stronger than any scar upon them. Through every storm that threatened to tear his world apart, Tim McGraw held fast to one truth. He protected his family as if they were the very breath sustaining him. Before the world hailed them as country music's golden couple, Tim McGraw and Faith Hill's love story began quietly during the Sensitive Burning Tour in 1996. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and now let's continue our journey. Faith, then 28 and engaged, happened to meet Tim backstage. A subtle yet undeniable spark ignited between them. Tim, the same age and still discovering his own heart, immediately felt the connection. Night after night, as Faith's music faded and Tim's guitar resonated, they were drawn to each other like two compasses finding the same true north. Then came the night Nashville would never forget. Rain pattered on the roof of the trailer. Thunder rolled and Tim trembled as he finally asked, "Will you marry me?" Faith didn't answer immediately, not out of doubt, but because she had recognized the destiny she had tried to avoid. Then she whispered, "We'll talk after your show, cowboy." Later, Tim turned back to see her answer written in red lipstick on the mirror. "Yes, I will be your wife, sealed with the mark of a kiss." On October 6, 1996, beneath the ancient oak trees in Rayville, Louisiana, Tim and Faith held a secret wedding disguised as a baseball game and a simple performance. There were no chandeliers or extravagant gowns, just Faith barefoot and 3 months pregnant, radiant in a pure white dress under sunlight, filtering through the leaves, and Tim by her side with quiet, unwavering love. When she placed her hand on her belly and whispered, "This is all we need," time seemed to stand still. No stage lights, no performance, just two hearts in love, beginning a family and a lasting love. Their happiness blossomed with the birth of their first daughter, Gracie, in 1997, followed by Maggie in 1998 and Audrey in 2001. Faith put her career on hold for 3 years to be fully present as a mother. Tim once shared, "She gave up the world so I could pursue mine." And in quiet, exhausted nights as Faith soothed the baby, they wrote the song, "It's Your Love." The track climbed to #1 and won the ACM Song of the Year award. Yet their true victory was the warmth and laughter of the home they built together. Faith once said, "Fame is loud. Motherhood is even louder." Every note they wrote together carried the rhythm of dedication, sacrifice, and a family bound by love, deeper than fame. Though their careers were soaring, and the world saw only perfection, the first cracks began to appear under the stage lights. Exhausting tours, the blur of recording sessions, and the weight of mounting expectations began to take their toll. Their home, despite its triumphs, had become a battlefield of exhaustion and quiet worries. Yet in that fragile space where many couples might have fallen, they endured. They supported each other in the darkness, making sacrifices no audience could witness. These hardships forged them into true life partners, refusing to let the world or emotional wounds drive them apart. The story of Tim McGraw and Faith Hill is not just a journey of passion and triumph in music, but also a quiet heroism found in exhausted moments where love is tested and proven true. By weathering these storms, they became something rarer than superstardom. Tim and Faith stand as living proof of the courage it takes to hold on when everything around you seems on the verge of collapse. Their bond crystallized on stage during the Soul 2 tour in 2006-2007 as they stood before a crowd of 50,000. A single glance exchanged between them amid the soaring melodies revealed all the sleepless nights, fears, and sacrifices behind their rise. Tim's voice and Faith's harmonies were more than music, they were proof of a devotion nurtured through trials. They became a reminder that marriage is a vow lived every day, not a sensational headline. Fans came to see them perform, but what they truly witnessed was intimacy, a partnership that overcame temptation distance, and the unshakable weight of fame. Yet just when their love seemed unshakable, even under the brightest lights, life reminded them that storms don't always announce themselves with noise. Sometimes they fell into a dreadful silence that shattered the calm they thought was stable. When Faith received her painful diagnosis for major surgery in 2015, it was a shock that left Tim feeling breathless. Life tested them brutally, in ways no stage lights could ever soothe. Tim did not falter. He stepped off the stage without hesitation, choosing instead to stay by Faith's hospital bedside with a devotion far greater than any fame he had ever known. Through long, silent nights in the hospital, as the lights dimmed and fear surrounded them, he sat motionless, fingers tightly holding hers, refusing to let go, even as exhaustion shook his body. The nurses whispered about how Tim rarely left the room. He returned before she woke, listening to her breathing, the pains she tried to hide, and the eyes searching for comfort amid the beeping of machines. Every time Faith opened her eyes, Tim was still there, steadfast, unshakable, present in a way that only profound love can provide. They didn't need explanations. Their language was patience presence and the quiet assurance that true love is measured in moments no one sees. When fear surged, Tim lifted her hand to his lips and whispered promises meant only for her. He vowed she would never face any painful moment alone. Only when Faith began to heal did Tim reveal the truth to the world in 6 simple words, carrying the weight of countless sleepless nights. "She is the strongest woman I know." Yet those words revealed just as much about Tim as they did about Faith. In that small hospital room, far from crowds and applause, Tim McGraw displayed a devotion that could neither be staged nor feigned. It was a quiet, steadfast loyalty, reminding all of us what love truly means when the world falls apart and the real significance of standing by the one you vowed to cherish. Through storms, success, and silence, Tim and Faith have remained steadfast. For 29 years, they have stood side by side, navigating the clamor of fame and the quiet of fear, choosing each other in moments when love felt heavy and life harsh. They cherish the unseen, difficult hours, protect each other's spirit when the world pushes, and choose loyalty over convenience. Their marriage endures through devotion rather than doubt, presence rather than pride. Three decades together have taught them a truth. Many realize too late love does not endure through magic but through courage, the courage to stay, to listen, to yield, and to rise. Tim has shown that true love is not a fleeting emotion, but a discipline forged over time. The decision to stand together each day, even when it is hardest, is something Tim understands profoundly. He grew up with the pain of a child missing a father's love, and because of that, he protects his own family with unmatched fierceness. The story of Tim McGraw and Faith Hill is not only a journey of passion and triumph in music, but also a journey of quiet heroism found in the weary moments where love is tested and proven true. They have endured challenges not to become superstars, but to become living proof of perseverance and courage in both love and life. In 2006-2007, their bond was vividly displayed during the Soul to Soul performance before 50,000 fans. A single glance exchanged between Tim and Faith as the melodies soared told their story, sleepless nights, fears, and sacrifices behind their success. Tim's voice and Faith's harmonies were more than music. They were proof of devotion and a lasting relationship built not on sensational headlines, but on vows lived every single day. Tim McGraw. The boy who grew up without a father's love found the true meaning of family and love. He learned to face the deep wounds of his childhood pains that neither time nor fame could soothe. When the call came about his father's illness in 2003, Tim realized he would once again confront loss. But this time, he was ready. On a cold March night in 2018 in Dublin, Ireland, at age 51, Tim collapsed on stage from severe dehydration and exhaustion. He had once electrified the stage with a powerful voice, pushing through fatigue and persistent dizziness, but finally his knees buckled. The microphone slipped from his hand and the stage lights blurred before his eyes as medical staff rushed in. In the silence of his hotel room, he sat alone, reviewing old footage from 1994, a young man racing across the stage, fearless, unstoppable. The feeling was like watching a ghost just out of reach, and he whispered into the darkness. Where did he go? From 2020 to 2024, the lingering pain escalated into a full-blown crisis. After 3 back surgeries and a knee replacement, Tim had to relearn how to stand, how to walk cautiously, and how to trust a body that no longer obeyed him. During recovery, as he gripped the bar for balance, his left leg refused to lift, and he confronted the harsh reality everyone faces when age and illness gradually rob the body of its abilities. On painful nights in Tennessee, Tim sat by the window watching the rain fall over the fields, whispering, "I've given this voice to the world. Now I need to learn to live with its silence." Those words echoed with loneliness as doctors warned him that his mobility might be permanently limited. Faith, with her love and steadfastness, was always Tim's anchor. She stood by him through the hardest moments as he faced grueling surgeries and exhaustion, yet she also rekindled his faith. Together, they practiced yoga, walked through the fields each morning, and shared simple meals that healed more than they merely satisfied hunger. And when Tim felt on the verge of collapse, Faith was always there to reach out, humming the song, "It's Your Love," and whispering, "You wrote this song for me. Maybe now it's time to sing it for yourself." Together they endured 25 years of triumphs, heartbreaks, surgeries, breakdowns, and rebirths, and now Tim chooses a different rhythm of life, one that is slower, calmer, and lived with intention. When Tim returned to the small stages, the lights no longer shone on a superstar. Instead, they illuminated a survivor. His voice carried the echoes of hospital rooms, sleepless nights, and trembling steps, and the quiet victories after nearly losing everything. At 58, Tim McGraw was no longer the young, passionate man from Nashville. He was a symbol of resilience, dedication, and courage, a man who had weathered life's storms. "If pain is the price of living, then I am grateful I have paid it," he shared. At the end of the show, Tim stepped off the stage, took Faith's hand, and headed home, carrying the quiet victory of a man who refused to fall. Now, at 58, Tim McGraw is not only a legend in music, but also a living testament to perseverance, resilience, and the enduring character that carried him through every storm. From the boy with an old guitar and a beat-up car, Tim rose to conquer grand dreams no matter the obstacles. Tim McGraw's humble beginnings were not only the foundation for a remarkable career, but also the journey of a life filled with meaning forged through decades of relentless touring chart-topping milestones and a voice that has brought hope, comfort, and healing to millions of hearts. His net worth, estimated between $200 and $210 million, reflects the scale of his achievements, yet it represents only a small fraction of the invaluable legacy his music has preserved, gentle in solitude and powerful in moments of doubt. Tim McGraw's life today, after years of giving his all to music, is a new journey. A slower, more peaceful and meaningful existence built on dedication, resilience, and gratitude. The long nights under the blazing stage lights brought Tim McGraw a dazzling career, but even in the calm rhythm of his present life, his body, a body that once pushed every limit, now speaks up. His joints' stiffened muscles quiver from the memories of years of relentless labor on stage. Hidden within it all is the lingering pain from 5 grueling surgeries that he must live with for the rest of his life. That feeling does not weaken him. On the contrary, it deepens him. Adds weight to every smile, gentleness to every glance, and a touch of solemnity to each song he sings under the soft light of dawn. Family remains the unceasing heartbeat of his life, the place where he finds connection, laughter, and tenderness that far surpasses any praise. At the center of the home is Faith Hill, his companion in love, art, and devotion, the one who turns ordinary mornings into moments of peace and beauty. Their 3 daughters, Gracie, Maggie, and Audrey, carry forward the values of kindness, resilience, and the boundless joy of music. Piano duets echo throughout the house, while footsteps across the dewy hills create cherished memories. Shared meals become rituals of connection, and evenings by the water bring a presence that is quietly magical, yet overflowing with love. Tim continues to create and act with clear purpose. Albums like Standing Room Only 2023 and King Rodeo 2024 reflect resilience and introspection, while his performances, including the upcoming Las Vegas residency, deliver moments that distill decades of experience into sincere and unadulterated stories. His awareness of age and fragility has brought a rare depth. Every note now carries the understanding that time is finite and presence is the true treasure. Tim McGraw's journey has proven that a legacy is not measured by wealth or fame, but by the lives touched, the love given, and the courage displayed. He has built empires, weathered storms, faced loss, and risen with humility, compassion, and wisdom. His story reminds us that the richest life is one lived with purpose, gratitude, and love as guiding principles. Thank you all for following Tim McGraw's inspiring story. If you found this story touching and motivating, don't forget to like and share to spread these meaningful messages to more people. And be sure to subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. Thank you so much for your support and the love you've shown us.